Spot the differences challenges aren't anything new on YouTube. You can find them all day long over and over again. But have you created your own? Well, today you will. You will take this document and make some changes to it so that you can make some subtle differences, or maybe some obvious ones, and see if you can make it a challenge for someone to solve. So your directions. Open this document in Photoshop. Number 1, observe the asset library and the two identical rooms below. These are images that you can select, copy and paste, and move them into the rooms below. And if you look, you have one room on the bottom left and the identical room on the bottom right. Number 2, make at least 8 changes to make the rooms different, such as changing the color of items, or adding and/or removing items so the images no longer match. And number 3, you must use at least 3 different items from the asset library in your design changes. I will show you some examples of how I completed this as suggestions. You're free to do what you would like to make your document what you want it to be. Here is a completed example. Can you spot the differences between these two rooms? You can pause the video here if you'd like to give it a try. Did you guess all of these? In the red are the changes, and the blue are the assets that I added to the room. And I added more than 8 changes to my room, if you're counting. So how did I do this? I'll show you how I use the paint bucket tool to change the color of items without removing the texture. And I'll show you how you can change items on the wall to blend in and make it look more natural by using the paintbrush tool, along with just a couple of other steps. I will add one asset from the asset library to the image so that you can see the process of copying and pasting. Go to layer 1. I'm going to use the object selection tool. It does a good job of making selections, particularly when it's on a background that has a solid color. So I'm just going to use it to draw a rectangle across my little turtle. You can add or subtract from your selection as well. I find it quicker just to switch to my quick selection tool and take away from the selection by holding Option on the keyboard and just dragging it closer. Now I'm ready to copy and paste that turtle onto its own layer so I can work with it. And I will call it Turtle. I'll switch to my Move tool so that I can move that copy out. And to make this be a little bit more realistic, I'm going to add a drop shadow to it. So going to Effects, going to Drop Shadow. I can adjust all of these sliders to get the effect that I want. Currently, my blend mode set to normal and my color set to black. My opacity is at 31%, but you can adjust that slider up and down till you get the opacity that you want. And I'm going to go with 42%, and then I'm going to adjust the angle a little bit so that it's more underneath the turtle. You can adjust the sliders for distance and spread and size so that you can see what it does, and just make yourself familiar with that. I don't want the shadow to be too harsh so that it looks a little bit more realistic. And I believe I'm okay with this. So I'm gonna leave it there and click OK. Since I've already pasted a copy of the turtle, if I want a second one, I could simply paste another one, or I can hold Option on my keyboard and get that double arrow to appear. And while I'm holding Option, if I left click on the item and drag, I can drag out a copy. So you can give that a try too. Then I can let go of Option and position that turtle to where it is in the other document. And now I can make the decision if I want this turtle to be the same or different, because you could add your assets where you are making them identical just to have another object in the room that are the same. Or I could increase or decrease the size of the turtle to make it, different. And that would qualify as using an asset and making a change to the room. So you'll repeat this process to add other objects into your room the way that you want to do that. But I'm going to show you a tip on how you can change the color of an item. So I can use the paint bucket tool. And let's change the color of the couch here. I'm just going to make it maybe more of an orange color. I think that's okay. Maybe a little darker. Okay, so I'm going to start with this just to give it a try and see if this works. And click OK. Now the trick here is, if your opacity is set to 100%, if I go to my layer 1, where my document is, if I start dropping in color, if I click now, then I see I'm losing all the dimension for the couch, and I don't want to do that. I want to leave the texture on it. So I'm going to undo that. And all I need to do here in this particular scenario is just take the opacity down a bit. So let's see what it looks like if I take the opacity to 50% and then drop in the color. Okay, so that is better, but that second click was a little too much there. So maybe I will just change the color at the top. And I can adjust the opacity down even more if I need to make it a little bit more subtle. So maybe 25%, and catch the arm of the chair. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Just by adjusting the opacity down, we're able to make the subtle change and not lose the detail. So you can do that with many of the objects on this document. All right, so that would count as 2 changes. I would only need 6 more. So I'll show you how I flipped the painting if that's something that you're interested in doing. So here, I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool to go ahead and just drag over this painting. I'm on layer 1, so I'm ready to copy and paste this painting onto its own layer. So Command C to copy, Command V like Victor to paste. Now what do you think I should do? Grab my move tool, and I can just rotate this around, right? Because it's on its own layer. I can just simply flip it. And once it's aligned, I can click the check mark. And if I wanted to get really tricky, I could flip this, right? I could go to Edit, I could go to Transform, and I could flip this one horizontally. And now that's even a more subtle change. Another way to remove an object, I could use my paintbrush tool if I wanted to just get rid of maybe a photo. Grab the eyedropper tool, click on the wall, and switch to my brush tool, and just paint over something that I maybe wanted to remove. Voila! That painting is gone. From here, you would just continue. You would need 2 more asset changes to your document, and you would need 4 more changes to the room. So I'm going to let you continue on until you get a completed document. And if you just want a reminder of what that looked like when I was finished with the original, here you go. So if you have met the requirements of completing steps 1, 2, and 3, then you would turn this document into your teacher the way they have requested. If you wanted to share this with someone, you probably don't want to send the top of this document to anyone. You would need to have everything on one layer so that you could then export your document. You could go up to Layer, you could flatten image, and all of your layers would collapse into one layer. Since everything now is on one layer, I can make a selection of maybe the top of the rooms down to the bottom using my rectangular marquee tool, and copy and paste that portion of the room onto its own layer. So if I turn off the visibility of the background layer, now I have just the room by itself. I could add directions using my type tool if I wanted to type out the instructions of what to do. I could do that here as well. Increase the size if you would want. And make any adjustments if you wanted to do it, whatever you want it to say. So once I've added the changes that I want to make to the document, then I'm going to quickly export this. I can go to File, I can go to Export, and it's set as a PNG file by default. So I'll click here and tell it where I want it to go. So I will just save it to my desktop, and you can choose the folder you want it to go into, or you can create a new folder. It's called blank spot the differences. I'm going to just change this to spot the differences challenge so I know what it is, and click save. Now I see that that file is on my desktop. So if I wanted to send this to myself, I could upload this to my Google Drive. I could send it as an email. I will show you how to send an email if you're not familiar with that. If you are, by all means, you're done. If not, follow me. So my school uses Gmail. Your school may use something different. You can check with your teacher if there's another type of email service that you all use. I could go here and I could upload this to my Google Drive by going to the icon next to my avatar, go to Google Apps, and I can locate Drive and click Drive. And from here, I could upload a new file and find the location of that. Click on it and click upload, and it's going to upload that directly to my Google Drive. So if I'm signed into my Google Drive on my phone, then I could download a copy of that document here. And there it is. Okay. And it'll give you a preview of what that looks like. Then I could download that to my device. So I've got it saved on the cloud. If you're needing to email this, then I would just click on my apps here and go to Gmail. And I want to compose a new email. Here is where I would type who I would send this to. So I'm just going to put an email address here. And I can call this one Spot the Differences Challenge. Then if I go down to the bottom, I have all of these options that I can use, and you can always hover over them if you're not quite sure what they are. I'm looking for the paperclip. So if I click that, I can attach a file. Same process. It's located on my desktop, so I can click on it and click upload. And it's now attached. It tells you your file size. It's not a very big file, so it's going to send via email. And then I can put a message if I want in here. Hey, lesson mentor, I'm sending you a challenge. Let me know what you think. Yeah, we can use that autocorrect filled in. Thanks, lesson mentor. Okay, and then I can click send. So now I know that if I send it, it's in my sent folder, in my inbox since I sent it to myself. Then I see my new email here and I can open that up, and then I can download that, or I can save it to Drive. So the person that receives it has some options of what they can do with it as well. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you did, stay tuned for the next one.